Hi, welcome to the Drinks Retailing Retail Ready podcast. I'm Lizzy O'Riordan and I'm joined with Stefano Girelli. You might know him from The Wine People, which is a producer and distributor of organic Italian wines, or maybe also from Santa Tresa or Cortese vineyards in Sicily. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for coming, for letting me in.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, so I thought to begin with, for these kind of meet the maker interviews, we like to just ask people kind of their story of how they got into the industry to begin with, and whether it was something that you always expected for yourself.
Well, that's a very interesting question because I didn't choose to come into the wine business because I was born in the wine business. I'm the third generation in the wine business, so it was kind of a natural choice for me
Yeah,
to go and do what my father and my grandfather used to do. So
yeah,
obviously with different, challenges and different situations, but wine business is not a business, it's a way of life, really.
it's true.
So no deliberate choice, but something that has grown on me, and it was a kind of very natural
Yeah,
because obviously I've always been exposed to, you know, winemaking, how to make wine, how to drink wine, to how to enjoy wine. So it was a kind of very natural.
mm. Did you ever consider doing something else, or did you always think?
I did actually just sometime in my life, how it is, and that was very, very close, but you know, you know that day when you have to either decide or not to decide. So I spent a sleepless night thinking about, so what do I do about this new business? And I said, nothing.
Mm,
What do you do about the wine business? Well, I know every little thing, every corner. So I said, better do what you know
yeah,
than to go and try something totally new, that I had no knowledge about it.
yeah. It's almost like it feels like obviously your family's in it, but it's like working in the wine trade feels like home for you.
Absolutely. But there is one thing that I believe is very special about the wine business, is a people business.
Yeah.
And I know all my growers, I know the people, and I'm really proud to say that I have been dealing with growers that have been dealing with my grandfather.
Mm,
So I'm working with them for 50, 60 years,
yeah.
and it's a continuous relation. Obviously, um, sometimes it's complicated, sometimes you have hard vintages, but you overcome this by trust
Mm,
and actually mutual interest, because I have to make sure that they actually can stay in business and survive. So I'm not a kind of person that likes to take advantage. I want to make sure that they have enough rewards to go on and to get motivated.
yeah, yeah. I mean, with you, it's interesting because a lot of the work that you do is promoting Sicilian wines with Santa Teresa and Cortese, but obviously you live in the north of Italy, which is
Yeah.
interesting. How do you, but how do you feel that living in the north but promoting the south a lot? I guess first, how did that happen? And also, how do you think that gives you a wider overview of Italian wines as a whole?
Well, there's no other place in the world that has so many different regions and grape varieties like Italy.
Mm.
Um, Being grown up in the north, obviously, I think that my grandmother was Austro-Hungarian, so it was very, very north and very kind of Austrian kind of mentality. So the family was very much in that kind of a culture. Um, how did I start in Sicily? I was started when about 30, 40 years ago, I started to go down in Sicily, and I quickly realized that it's an incredible potential down there.
Mm.
Sicily is an island, but it has so many different areas,
Yeah.
and the potential, not only for grapes, but also for produce,
Mm.
for, a lot of product that comes from the soil, is immense because
Yeah.
they have a unique microclimate. So it was very hard not to fall in love with Sicily.
Mm.
So for a few years, I was going around and trying to find places where we can really make things from, the base, from scratch. And actually, we actually located in Vittoria. We found this opportunity to get into partnership with a local person
Mhm.
and get involved with Santa Teresa to start with.
Brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you said before, I mean, you mentioned the microclimate there. I think you said before that Sicily is almost the perfect place to make organic wines. What did you mean by that?
I mean, exactly this. In 2000, well, it was before 2000 when I started to go down in Sicily. I had always this dream, not or idea, to make organic wines because, I was already thinking that, long terms we're not going to spray more pesticide, and unless we take care of the planet, we're going to have no planet. Today, that is what you hear every day. But 20 years ago, believe me, when I started to talk about organic, everybody thought, oh my God, what is this post hippie, thinking about why do you do this? Why do you need to be certified?
Yeah.
But, I'm a strong believer that first of all, you need to have all your paperwork right and you have to make your production right. And I was truly believing that organic would provide better quality and unique quality.
Yeah.
Because if you do organic, you allow the grapes to really develop in a much more unique way, and without the use of pesticides, which are basically medicine. You really allow the grapes to express themselves in their own way. And Sicily actually is, in my view, one of the few, if not the only region in Italy that has a unique microclimate, unique position to grow organic grapes, with consistency and quality.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you before we go deeper into Sicily, if you had to describe the difference between the north and the south, as you say, there's such a span of wines in Italy. But if you had to give it a go, describing the difference between the wines, but also the culture between the two.
Well, wine viticulture is totally different. Think about that. In the north, we have to grow vineyard in a way that I can catch every single bit of sunlight. In Sicily is exactly the reverse, because there is so much sunlight, and you have to make sure that the leaves and the way you train vines protect the grapes from direct sunlight, because otherwise they get sunburned. Culturally is different. We are very different. We come from different culture. I mentioned before that I come from Austro-Hungarian mentality, but Sicily has been a fantastic discovery because it's very different, and I've learned an awful lot going down there because you're exposed to different cultural background, different society, and still really very authentic. And that's what I really like of Sicily. They, especially where we are, they are still very, very much authentic. Obviously, there are some challenges. Obviously, it's not always easy. But come on, this is the beauty of our business. If you don't have challenges, you don't challenge yourself to make it better.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've bought some wines with us that we'll taste later. But in Cortese, but just in Sicily as a whole, what are the kind of grapes that you would say are becoming more well known for the region? I know we
Well, that's a long list because you see, in Sicily we have so many indigenous grape varieties. Obviously, the best known are Grillo, like our Nero d'Avola, now Caricante, or Inzolia, or Catarato. But there are so many old and forgotten grape varieties. And in fact, in our estate, we have what we call it experimental vineyard, which is a project made with University of Palermo, where we grow 52 different varietals and clones of indigenous Sicilian grape variety. So much so that we brought back to life one forgotten or lost grape variety called Orisi. Think about that. It's a project that started in 2009, and we started from 8 vines, and then we increased slowly the production, the number of vines, and now we have about half an hectare with 1,853 vines, producing about 2,000 bottles, and we made the first vintage 4 years ago.
What are the qualities of that grape?
It's different. This is a natural cross of Sangiovese and Montonico Bianco in a particular area called Nebrodi in Sicily. And it's very interesting because when you start, with that small number of vines producing that small amount of grapes, you start with what, obviously, first you need to allow the vine to get to maturity. So you need to wait between 3 and 5 years. Then you start to pick the grapes. and you start to do what we call it micro vinification. So you try different things, and you need to understand what is the potential of this grape variety. Then, we decide, okay, let's take the risk and plant half an hectare and see how it grows. And it is amazing because it's an ancient grape variety, forgotten, but I don't know if you're aware, but 23 and 24, we had some difficult harvests, one for mildew and the other one for really, very high temperature and really severe drought. But Orisi actually performed the best in terms of quality and quantity. So I think, there is a lot to learn that indigenous grape variety that has been born there. They do have resilience against the weather changing and the climate change that we are facing, because this is going to be a major challenge for the future.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that all over the world, really. People are starting to become very interested in indigenous grapes because, as you say, and it seems obvious, grapes from that land are well suited to that place.
Absolutely, and that's important. You see, when you're talking about producing grapes and eventually making wine, you always think about a plant basically that has adapted to the soil. We call it terroir, but terroir is a number of factors. It's not just the soil, it's the climate, it's the rain precipitation during the winter, the way you train the vine. So it's this whole complex of things that makes this grape variety to perform its best in terms of quality and in terms of quantity, because obviously you have to have the right ratio between production and quality.
I'm really curious now. I mean, you mentioned, we're all tasting foods from across lots of different cultures and using different herbs that we might not have before. What is the most unusual combination that you might have seen Frappato paired with?
Oh, good question. We've done a tasting in a fusion restaurant in Milan with Frappato, and they had a lot of mixed things. The good thing is the contamination with Asian food, and in Milan there was a lot of cross contamination, and the chef was really, I had to deliver a case of wine first because they had to taste it or drink it, I don't know, but they really managed to match. And he actually created some ravioli, but it was a mix of, there was some duck in there, there was a lot of spices, something I really don't know what it was, with the kind of a broth. That it was an incredible combination. And the fact that it was spicy without being hot, you know what I mean? You got a really spicy taste. It was really combined very, very well with the Frappato, that it has its own character, but at the same time, good acidity that will really help, to balance off the duck fat and structure. But very interesting. But every day I try with something else. Even with pizza is excellent. Absolutely. On Friday night, when I have friends, we cook pizza. Frappato is perfect.
I think, I find that most wines are good with pizza.
Well, it's so hard in Italy. Everybody has beer with pizza. So no, it's wine. Enjoy red wine with pizza, or even white wine.
Yeah.
Especially now, we have this kind of trend about gourmet pizza, where they have incredible ingredients on pizza. So you need proper wine. You don't need beer.
Yeah.
Nothing, with all respect to beer.
Yeah. Like, I love beer too.
I love beer, but hey, pizza and wine can be fantastic.
No, it's true. I wanted to talk also about, we've touched on it a bit with exploration into indigenous grapes, but one thing you're really passionate about, not just being organic, but the whole spectrum of sustainability. And I wanted to ask, in Sicily, on the 2 vineyards, kind of what are the things that you do to achieve that?
That's a long
story.
It's a long story, because sustainable is a whole concept. Everything started with organic, because organic is not just not using pesticide, because that's an easy answer. When you start to grow organic, you see that the vines really react in a different way. Obviously, don't forget one thing, we have a cycle that lasts 1 year. So whatever we start this year, we're going to see the results when we pick the grapes. So it does take time. But over the years, what we have realized is that the grapes actually develop in a different way. They have thicker skin, and they actually are more resilient, and they develop their own immunity system that is stronger. And this led us to really get into this. So um, sustainable, from the agriculture point of view, is also, for example, obviously not using fertilizer. We use our own fava beans. We actually grow the weeds between the vines, because this creates, microorganism in the soil that creates an incredible diversity. So every single area of the winery or the estate has different type of weeds, which are part of the ecosystem, as part of the biodiversity. And it's amazing how much influence this brings to, because think about the soil. The soil is full of microorganisms that live in symbiosis with the roots of the vines, and they can really strongly influence the quality of the grapes. So, it's so fascinating. So that, as far as viticulture is concerned, then obviously water for us is a huge challenge. So when I bought the estate, we had 3 wells on the estate. We say, okay, no problem, perfect, we have plenty of water. But what happened is that over the years, we realized that we had increased saltiness in the water. And it's because by pumping the water outside from the soil, we were attracting the salty water from the sea that is only 12 kilometers away. So, salty water for the vineyard is not good. So what we decided to do first was to connect with the local reservoir, and we built a pipeline of about 8 kilometers, kind of an investment. But then what happened, for example, 2 years ago, we had a 6 weeks cut off water supply because there was not enough water for human consumption in Sicily. So now we're building a little lake, or a large lake, in order to actually collect the water and make sure that, we have enough water for our needs. At the same time, we collect all the rainy water, obviously, but also all the water that we use in the winery. And it's a lot of water by cleaning and, all the different processes. We collect it, and we depurate with a system that is totally natural. Is a kind of a series of lake that filter down the water through different stone size and different plants that actually gives you a water that is clean, that can be reused in the vineyard.
Yeah.
So every little drop of water we get, we keep it and we use it.
And you said the lake that you're building, how far into that process are you? When do you think you'll be done?
Well, we're waiting the last permission, and it's going to be 150,000 cubic meters, so pretty large. But you do need a lot of water in Sicily. You do need a lot of water, because without water it's very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I also wanted to talk about, obviously, there's the vineyards, and you do a lot of things. You're also involved with the Wine People, which focuses across the entirety of the country. I think the way you describe it on your website is it's a 360 model, but do you want to kind of explain for those people who don't know what the Wine People is?
Okay, it's another 3 days. No, well, the Wine People is technically a commercial entity, but we have a totally different business model. We have 3 winemakers working for us full time, and what we do, actually, we go in different areas of Sicily and also different areas in Italy, different regions. And actually, because of my long-lasting relation with the growers, I know very well a lot of the growers, both in Puglia, in Abruzzo, in Veneto, and actually it's very easy for them to say, hold on a second, we want the grapes to be done in this way. And what we try to do, and I think it's very important, it is part of the sustainability, is, as I said before, we need to provide enough return to the growers to survive. Because 4 or 5 years ago, there were some Sicilian growers that were not paid the cost of picking the grapes, which is going to be just killing your business, and I think this is not long term. That's what I call it also sustainability. If we don't take care of our growers, we're going to be by ourselves. And what is really incredible value in Italy is that there are a large number of small growers that obviously is a part-time job, or they make their living out of their vineyards. If they can't make a living, they're going to plant, I don't know, potatoes or carrots, and that's the end of the business. So that is part of our responsibility. I think is very, very important. So with this knowledge of different growers in different regions, we decided to produce wines in different regions of Italy, where actually we source the grapes, make the wine in different regions of Italy. We bottle in a bottling facility that is obviously certified, and ready to go, and actually geared up for the export market. Because one thing in Italy is the local market, but if you want to have a chance on the export market, obviously you have to have some sort of certification, you have to be approved, and there are all these certifications that are vital to be serious, because every single retailer today want to sleep at night. They don't want to have troubles, they don't want to have glasses in the bottle, you know what I mean. And we take it for granted, but the kind of work that is behind this is enormous, and unless you play this game, you don't play the game.
Yeah. And I think, when you speak to kind of smaller producers, a lot of them say, we want to be organic, we want to do this, but it is the bureaucracy and the paperwork that stops them doing it. So you're kind of giving.
I tell you what, yes, and again, that is what we do with them. Say, okay, let's follow this. We give you a hand on this, and we guarantee that we're going to be here this year, next year, next year, next year, next year. I have growers that have been dealing with us for 30 years.
Yeah.
Year after year after year, up and down, obviously. But, as I said, is a personal relation, and that's what makes the business fantastic. This business is unique.
Yeah. Do you have any particular projects within the Wine People that you're excited about at the moment, or anything that you're working on?
A lot of projects. One thing, the wine business is really developing and alive. The fact that we can grow something and actually out of the same grape make 4 different wines, depending on the vinification, time of picking, whatever, it really gives you an incredible variety of options. We have a lot of projects going on. We are testing a lot of things, and what we bring to the market is only what we believe resulted in a good results. There are a lot of mistakes that have been buried in the winery, because you don't always make it right. And you have to test it. And before getting the Orisi right, believe me, we've done so many wrong vintages and things that has not worked in the way we wanted. So a lot of things going on, a lot.
Are there any
Watch this space.
Watch this space. I was going to say, are there any things that are fairly new to the market that people should keep an eye out for?
Well, you see, one of the success we had in the last literally 3 years is the orange wine. It's been fantastic because it's always been under our radar, but what happened is that we have many tasting, and when you taste orange wines, some of them are, let's face it, oxidized and faulty. But when you get the right one, it's something, my goodness, this is fantastic. And it was very interesting because the first vintage we produced, we actually gone into the market, and you should have seen some customers say, "Oh, orange wine, do you want me to taste it?" I said, "Yeah, okay, try this." But we worked very hard in order to have an orange wine with no faultiness, with no oxidation, to really try to perform. And actually now it's an enormous success. We got reservation in August for the following year now. So that's what you want, because somehow we managed to understand what the market wants and the potential of this different wine. So very interesting.
It's also, I will say, with the Cortese orange wine, I think the packaging is fantastic. We're gonna taste it with the monkey on it. I think it goes a long way.
Orangutan,
exactly.
Well, it was brilliant idea. I have to thank the designer but it was amazing because obviously when you decide a package, it's always kind of tricky what we do. And along all the kind of proposition we had came up this, and instantly it was fantastic, done. It's something that connects orangutan with the orange. If you search on the web, orangutan, and it's orange, orangutan is orange, so it was a natural.
It just makes sense. Brilliant. I mean, we've talked about Sicily, we've talked about the north. I guess just to finish off, I'd be really curious, what is the wine that you're drinking right now, your favorite at the moment? And also, wine should be drunk with food, so what would you be pairing it with?
Oh my God, It's a difficult question, because I go through phases, and I'm going back into the reds. I've been for a few years now onto the whites, experimenting, and in fact, I think there is still a great potential in white wines, but now I'm going back to red wine, and actually, we're working on few projects on kind of frappato style wines with different styles, and it's challenging, and that's really what I'm, you know curious now and tasting with food. Um, and food combination depending what you have, what you cook, what is the season, because right now, for example, we have asparagus season in Italy, and you have a variety of wines,
Yeah.
that you can go with it. So
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you.
well,
That
thank you
was
very
great.
much. That was great.
And yeah, it'd be great to try the wines as well.
Let's go.